Welcome to Cloudcast, where you get an inside look at St. Cloud, Florida's local government. Whether you live, work, or play here, we're bringing you the information you need to better understand your city. Cloudcast is hosted by our communications team, including Miriam Batchelder, Andrew Sullivan, Deborah Carson, and Jay B. Miller. Thanks for listening in to Cloudcast.
So welcome, everyone, to another edition of Cloudcast, the City of St. Cloud, Florida's award-winning podcast. Today, we're going to be an all-in-house communications department effort. My name is Andrew Sullivan. I'm joined by Communications Director, Miriam Batchelder.
Hello, everyone.
And Media Services Technician, Jay B. Miller. He's amazing on the microphone.
Hey, everybody.
Topic of conversation is hurricane season. We are in hurricane season right now, as of you listening to this, in 2026. It is, something that I think scares some folks that are maybe new to the area. And I think we have people that have been here, or their family has been here for generations, and they sort of consider it maybe a nuisance at best. But we're here to message them with some safety topics to keep them protected, their family, their home, or their business, and just share some really good information that everybody can use today.
Right. And Andrew, I think, with those two demographics that you talked about, we kind of run the gamut of reactions when people turn on TVs and see, hey, there's something brewing in the Atlantic or in the Gulf or something. And you either get, yeah, been there, done that. We've survived all these things. And you almost get apathy.
Yeah.
And on the other extreme, you get people who have never been in Florida during hurricane season. And they tend to get kind of hyped up and almost over fearful.
Yep.
And so I think our goal today is to kind of get that happy medium somewhere in the middle there, right? Where we don't get so apathetic about it that we, fail to make good planning choices, but we also don't, shut ourselves down with panic.
And we were super fortunate last year. We didn't have any landfalls of any major tropical systems in the state. So
yeah,
that's great. But that's not going to continue forever.
Right. And after the several years we had prior to that, it was kind of nice to have I say Q word, they don't let me say quiet on these things,
right.
But, that kind of a season, because we have had some pretty significant storms over the last few years.
And so just as a reminder, hurricane season annually for the North Atlantic is June through November. But these storm systems, they're pretty famous for not looking at calendars. They don't really care.
They don't care.
So we made it to this far and not had one yet. And that's great. We've even looked, from now as of our recording, we don't have any forecast activity in the tropics. We'll talk a bit about how to find out that information reliably later too. But, thanks to great forecasting, we're blessed to have the information to know when these storms are coming days or more in advance. And that's amazing to be so able to really make these preparations. But what we're going to talk about today, we don't want you doing that at the last minute. None of these things are so urgent, or, they need to be more urgently done in advance rather than the day of, the week of the storm.
Yeah. And it's human nature. I think everybody thinks it's never going to happen until it's happening, right?
Yep.
And then you try to get gas, you try to go to the grocery store, you try to anything. And then you've got the masses of people who haven't done any preparation. And then you layer that in with some of that last minute panic and thing. And I know we're going to get to sandbags, for example, but we see every time we get a storm coming, we see sandbag panic. And it's from a logical, rational viewpoint, it doesn't make sense because many of these people scrambling and panicking about sandbags don't need sandbags.
Right.
So, we can talk through some of that, but our message with this podcast is to try to, we're not fear-mongering. We're just trying to inform people about common sense, logical things that it benefits you and all of us for you to do in advance and just be ready. And that way, when a storm comes, you're not running around in a last minute panic and, you're as ready as any of us can be when a storm approaches.
Agreed. I think one of the best places for everyone to start is really to assess your own risk in storms. And we have a lot of great tools that you can use that are on the City of St. Cloud's website to find out your flood risk, to find out, if you have a home that has an older roof system perhaps, or, if you live in one of the historic areas of downtown, kind of understand the challenges that you could face when there are high winds when there are, massive amounts of rainfall over an extended period of time, and plan for that first. So definitely, I would make sure that you're visiting the city's website. I think if you just do a search in the search tab for flood, you're going to find some great resources.
It's even easier than that, actually. On our homepage, there's 3 big rectangles right on the homepage, and one of them says floodplain management. Click there. Lots of resources you can check and see if you're in a flood-prone area, and there's all kinds of links as to ways that you can mitigate that risk of flooding as well.
I'd like to add, since we're talking about floods and flooding, from a historical standpoint, when St. Cloud was built, it was actually built 8 feet underwater. Hamilton Diston and crew actually lowered that water level so that we have the dry land that we have now. However, that's always nice to know, is that we are basically one giant floodplain. So there's that.
That's a good point to bring up, Jay, and it's interesting because I was reading something literally in the last 24 hours that Hamilton Diston originally had a plan to dredge all the way from Central Florida down to the Everglades and ran out of money and so forth. But it's a very good point. And to your point, some of those areas are more flood-prone areas because they are so low-lying and they're not built up above street level and so forth.
And so depending on your individual property's flood zone, and you can go, when you go to our flood tool, you can punch in your home's address and find out exactly what area you're in. You may be already required to carry flood insurance under FEMA, but you can additionally just go ahead and purchase that flood insurance, which I do, even though I don't live in the city, but it's available for you. And it is at a discounted rate because of, how our city works with floodplain management. So could be money well spent. I know that your homeowner's insurance does not cover rising waters or flood damage to your home. So if you think that your property is covered, I urge you to check that now, because you can't, after the loss, go and try to procure insurance or coverage.
Plus, I believe most policies have like a separate hurricane rider.
They do.
That the deductible is different and everything like that.
Yeah.
So right now is the time to make sure that your paperwork is in order.
Now's the time, because I promise you, if there is a storm coming, you're not going to be able to get a policy written at that point, So yeah, that's great advice. That's one of those kind of basic level prep things that when we talk about make sure you are ready for hurricane season, that's, the base of that pyramid.
So now that we know our risks, now we want to make our plan, what we're going to do in the event that one of these storms is coming. So what we need to do is we need to think about everybody in our home that we need to take care of. We need to think about, do we have seniors that maybe have, different needs? They have medications that they need to bring with them.
Or medical equipment.
Right. Mm-hmm. Do we have pets? And we need to plan what we're going to do and share that plan. That's the important part. Share that plan with your friends and family. Make sure that everybody's accommodated for, and that we know that we can be safe for a few days if we need to. That could be simply stay in your home. That's a shelter. That's exactly right. That could be, a Disney hotel for a few days. It doesn't mean that you have to cross state lines and go, forever away from your home.
Right.
But, if you're in a mobile or manufactured home, if your home just structurally won't stand up to 75 plus mile an hour winds for a sustained amount of time, if you're in that flood zone, make plans to get out and have it in place. And it's easy enough for you to do, a day or two before impact that you can get out safely. So make that plan now.
That's another one of those things that I urge people, don't wait until the last minute. And we understand, as good as the science is, predicting where those storms are going to go ultimately is still a bit of a guessing game, right? Our friends at the Weather Channel and the meteorologists and so forth do their best to tell us where they think it's going to go. But sometimes I swear these storms have a mind of their own, and they'll make turns where nobody thought they were going to turn, right?
And here's the thing, though. I think it's like Christmas time for like the news media weather sections. This is like their big time of the year. So, they're hyping everything up, and, people say, well, if Jim Cantori, is that his name?
If Jim Cantori shows up in your town, it's time to get out.
Yes, exactly right.
I think there's T-shirts on the whole thing for that.
Tom Terry rolling up his sleeves.
Rolling up his sleeves, it's serious, if Tom Terry's sleeves. But again, if there's a storm heading to your general area, mindful of the fact that it may take a last minute turn or so forth, don't wait until 12 hours before landfall before you're evacuating. You're going to be parked on an interstate somewhere in Florida, right? Yep. Get out a day or two in advance. And what Andrew was saying about friends and family members in a different part of the state or where have you, you don't have to go 7 states away to, escape the storm, but know what your risks are, make a plan for what you're going to do if, and then implement that plan before the last minute.
And if that seems like a daunting task, you can go to ready.gov, has pre-made templates for all
Great
of this
stuff.
Yep. So you can go in there. There's lots of great information, and there's just an online fillable PDF of here's what I want to do. Here's who I need to notify. Here are the supplies that I want to bring with me, all of that stuff. So a lot of the guesswork, did I miss a thing? It's going to guide you through that and help you be more prepared.
Right. It's a lot like camping, really, to get ready.
It is.
You got to go to, the sports section of Walmart or whatever, get some of that stuff.
Get your lanterns, get all the stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a great analogy.
Put it all in a tote. You put it in a tote, and it's all ready to rock and roll. Same with the food.
Grab it out of the closet and go. Yep. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So that actually brings us nicely into our next topic, and that is building a kit.
Oh,
yeah.
I got a little head of the game.
Great segue, Jay.
Very timely. So you need to have supplies on hand, and you need to I strongly discourage folks from going out, the night before and going into the Publix or the Aldi's or whatever and trying to track down some water. People love to buy water.
All
People
the good snacks will be gone by then anyway.
Yeah.
Sullivan family.
I'll get there before then.
Jay will get there and get all the good snacks.
We have to have our Oreo cookies. That's our hurricane snacks.
It's
I think we'll talk about that
hurricanes,
later.
Yeah.
These are all things that you can get now. You want them to be shelf-stable foods. They want to be able to stay around for a little bit and stay fresh. You don't want to depend on having to heat them or having to add water to things. It's going to be a little bit more difficult if we do have storm impacts to do that. So certain staples that you should have, of course, your gallon of water per family member per day. You can get that now. You can have, bottled water and just keep it. You can have some shelf-stable foods, keep that. Make sure that you have your medical supplies. If you have medications or things that, run out, fill those in advance as we get closer to like an impact, but be mindful that everybody else is also doing that. And it's going to seem like, a big rush if you try to do it that way.
Right.
It's intense. It can be intense.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, I've been that guy at Home Depot getting the last minute piece of plywood that I thought I need. I've been that guy. It can be intense.
Yep. And of course, we're talking about different people that have been here different amounts of time. Some people will just stay and wait. Is it going to be serious? Is it going to be what the news says it was going to be? And they'll wait and they'll wait and they'll wait. And then now you're in line at the Home Depot waiting for, a piece of plywood or whatever. So,
or like I know I used to have the motto, I'm not even going to be worried about it unless it's a Cat 3. Not even going to think. It's not,
right.
Yes.
Yep.
Well, that changed my mind a couple, because we had a Cat 2 or so, or it was a proposed Cat 2 that, just spun off some really bad storms. And I'm like, it can be intense at any level, Cat.
Yeah.
And Jay, I'm going to say this. I grew up in Florida, been here my whole life. The first hurricane I worked professionally, I realize I'm dating myself here, was Hurricane Andrew in 92. And the place I lived at the time, I was living in Polk County, and so many people from South Florida evacuated to Polk County from Hurricane Andrew. And in my mind, always, that's what the center of the state is. It's safe from hurricanes. We may get a little bit of rain, but we're not going to get the big impacts. My rude awakening year was 2004, which many of our listeners are going to recognize. We took direct hits by 4 storms in the state that year. The city I lived in took direct hits of 3 of those 4, and we were right in the middle of the state. And it was just jarring to me. The home I grew up in was demolished and condemned after that storm. The house that I owned over there at the time, it looked like a bomb went off in the neighborhood. It was nothing. Yeah, that was, I guess, when my naivety disappeared when it came to hurricanes.
Yeah, same.
And having worked on response teams to hurricanes multiple times since then, when you see the devastation, and you're there, it doesn't compare to pictures, video, any of it. And it's just, you can't see the world again the same. And I am guilty of being really apathetic about them for a long time. I don't have that luxury anymore because I've seen what they can do, including inland.
Yep.
So, and I don't get preachy with it, but I just kind of want to share with people. And when you've seen people in the throes of the devastation after storms, where you're lined up in a mall parking lot in August and all you want in life is water. I mean, like,
Yep.
it's so Lord of the Flies, to go back
Or a
to that.
shower.
Yeah. And it's just, it changes you, and I've been on both sides of that coin. I've seen all sides of this thing. So just really want to, and again, I'm not into scare tactics and stuff, but just encourage people to be as prepared as you can be. I've seen a lot of times people rely on the government. They're like, well, I'm not going to worry about it because if we get hit, the city, the county, the state, FEMA's going to ride in on white horses and save the day.
They'll get there.
Eventually.
It's kind of slow, but they'll get there.
And I try to tell, the mantra in disaster response is all disasters are local. They begin and end local, right? FEMA will provide support, but their role is not to ride in on white horses and save the day for you. They are a resource that provides things, but, at the end of the day, just as much as you can do to be as prepared as possible. I try to tell people, pretend you got to survive for 3 days with no help, right? Yep. And then you're going to be well positioned. It's the rare storm that's going to put you in that position, but we've all seen them.
Yep. And it just takes one. It's like a roll of the dice.
Yeah.
My particular awakening was Hurricane Charlie in 2004.
Yep.
When we were literally, everything went out for like 3 days. And that was it. And, it's like, all right, be a scout, be prepared.
I'm a little jealous of that. We were out for 3.5 weeks from Charlie. Then we had
a week plus.
Francis and Jean, and then Ivan went up and tore up the panhandle in between all of those. So, and again, when you talk about having plans, my mom was still living in the house I had grown up in, and it was not inhabitable after Charlie. So her and her 2 dogs had to come move in with me. And again, there was not a plan in place, but it was the natural plan. And then you're trying to walk through all the things with the city of, are we going to rebuild? Like, what are we doing? And it's a lot. The resource centers are there, but people who are under stress aren't behaving in their best. None of us does. Mm-hmm. You're scared, you're stressed, you're all the things. So it just becomes this hot pot of dysfunction and frustration. So
keeping your head is key.
Keeping your head is key. But again, having that plan and know what you're going to do, and then just take things in bite sizes as they come. Yeah.
I will say something, and it's going to seem odd to our listeners possibly, but the government has made preparing for these storms a little easier. I know a lot of our long-timers have come to look for certain weeks or weekends where hurricane kit supplies go on a tax-free holiday. They've actually made that a permanent tax-free exemption for certain supplies that are really going to be helpful. So portable generators, the cans that you use to hold fuel, batteries, tarps, and other supplies are permanently tax exempt in the state of Florida. So there is not a reason to wait for a specific week or weekend.
Nice.
You can just go out and you can get those right now. So that's a big help.
And that's a great point. Yeah.
I was not aware of that.
Yeah.
That's a good,
yeah.
good to know.
And I'm sure, honestly, a lot of people were not aware of that, and they're probably waiting, well, I don't want to do this until the tax-free holiday. So that's a great
that was from last year, so last hurricane season. So it's been since then. So
I'm going to back us up just a little bit. Another of the preparation things before a storm is even coming, and please, before a storm is coming, we see every storm season, once TV starts bubbling about potentially a storm coming, all of a sudden everybody's out in the yards on the weekend trimming tree branches and all of this stuff. If you do that within a week of a storm coming, chances are that stuff's not going to get picked up. And we say it every year, we message it every year. Once the storm is coming, now's not the time to trim your trees. So when is the time to trim your trees and your branches? Now.
It's right now.
Right. If you trim that stuff 2 days before a storm and our trucks can't get out and get all of that stuff collected citywide in a day, now we've got projectiles potentially laying out by your curb. So your oak limb is now going to end up, through your neighbor's front window, right?
Yeah. Just be mindful that when a storm is coming down, we are putting our staff to their best use. A lot of those same drivers, those same staff from Public Works, they're the ones that are there helping you with your sandbags and doing other things. So try to have that done now. I know there's a lot of people that are waiting. They're on the fence if their plant or tree is going to come back from our winter freeze. We're going to have a tremendous amount of just dead material that's there. Trim up those loose branches now, or make the decision to take down that tree that's just not come back yet. Just go ahead and do that now. It's going to be so much safer and easier than waiting until 0 hour when, the Cat 3 is coming this way. So that is an excellent point. I think Jay brought it up earliest. We were talking about watching the news, and they sort of delight in sharing, these sort of storm prediction paths and cones and all this stuff. Staying informed is definitely one of the key points in your hurricane prep. You want to make sure that you have a trusted source of weather information and not somebody that's just trying to get you very excited. If you're watching a news broadcast and they have 47 different colors on their radar image, and they're all, very day glow colors, maybe try to find a little more subdued one.
Don't get your updates from TikTok.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. There's some very popular social media folks that also do their own weather things, and they're fine. But, a lot of people will try to find the most exciting path when they're looking at the forecast models and just try to get you excited.
To hype it, yeah.
And we have to draw that very fine line of, we need to inform you if this is possible, but not try to overdo it so much that you're not listening to us. So when you're looking at city notifications and city alerts, we're trying to balance that line as fairly as we can to make sure that you're able to make the best, most informed decisions for your safety.
Yeah, and I will say, again, in all fairness to our friends at TV stations doing weather, but your governments, your city, your county, and so forth, we're not in it for ratings, right?
Yep.
We're not looking to hype. We're not looking to unnecessarily frighten you into things. But we just encourage you to get your information from reliable sources that don't have a vested interest in it, I guess maybe is the way to say it. There's all kind of weather people out there, and we all have our favorites. But if I'm looking for just straight down the middle, factual, not hyped stuff, personal me, I follow the National Weather Service out of Melbourne, right? Because they're going to give me straight information. It's not going to be hyped. It's not going to be, well, here's this one spaghetti model that shows it coming right through, and just, and I know some of the other stuff is fun, and I don't think anybody means anything bad from it, but I think sometimes it's easy for us to get sucked into the vortex of hyped social media and things like that. So I just caution people to get your updates and your information about things like this from sources that are reliable. And we promise you the city's not going to hype things. That's not what we're here for.
Now, oftentimes, when I'm sharing content related to weather, I'll just directly share from National Weather Service Melbourne.
Right.
And again, there is no agenda to it. It is simply, here's your risk. Here's what is likely coming this way. Right. And then we'll all get through it together.
And, Andrew and I, we are the city's social media in most of these cases.
Yeah.
And I say talk in parentheses, but we communicate with a lot of residents here. And like we said at the top of the show, some of them have been here forever and some of them are brand new. And the spectrum of people within that, and that's what we tell all of them is like, look, we're not hyping anything. We're not trying to downplay or upplay this, but here's what National Weather Service is telling us. Here's what we're looking at. And here's what we would like you to do.
Mm-hmm.
I like them too, National Weather Service, because they have a Facebook page. And so you can sign up to their Facebook and they'll just push out to you your stuff. And then I like to listen to, in the background, probably all the different TV stations. I'll spend an hour, listening to Wesh, and then I'll jump over to TV 13, and then what's the Weather Channel saying about it, and kind of get a mix of it all.
Yes, yeah. And that's probably a good way to get a realistic picture of it, you know, and sometimes it's delightful to watch the differences in them.
It is.
And then, yeah, I think a little bit goes a long way. Get your information, and then
Turn it
once
off.
you've seen the cycle, you could be doing other stuff.
Right.
I think that the whole dependence on going to get your sandbags, to go to get your bottled water at the last minute, I think that's people feel better about a situation if there's something they can do.
Sure.
So there's this little action I can take, and all right, I'm a little bit better prepared.
Yeah.
What I would urge people to do is, once you're all in order, rather than sitting and watching the news cycle, check on your neighbors.
Yep.
Go down the
Definitely.
street.
Yep.
If you've got some, maybe there's seniors next door. Maybe you've got, the new couple that just moved in. Go check on them. Make sure maybe they're not watching the same news. Maybe they don't even know.
Some people don't watch the news at all. So,
There's 70,000 plus of us in the city limits right now. Just go check on your neighbors. Go say hi. If they need a spare gallon of water or something, just to help them.
same like
Be that neighbor.
Same like afterwards, if somebody's got a limb down, or, I've seen that a lot of times where everybody pitches in and, helps clear stuff out afterwards.
Absolutely.
You find out who on the street has a working chainsaw real fast.
Yeah.
Yep.
If you don't know your neighbors, you meet them after a storm.
Oh,
I guarantee that.
definitely.
Yeah.
So be that neighbor. As a community, we can definitely get through this. We've got what it takes. We just need to work together, work a little smarter, and just stay informed.
Let's talk a little bit about some provisions before, during, and after. Like, for instance, before, when we know it's coming and it's imminent, because somehow our house ends up being like the meeting point where, like, it's deemed the safe place. I don't know why. Maybe it's because before it, we have this big spaghetti dinner. That's what we do. All the power's still on. We cook a big spaghetti dinner, so everybody's got a full stomach at the time, regardless of what happens after that.
I like this.
And, some people have made Jell-O shots and whatnot, but, I'm not going to go down that road. That's a whole, hurricane parties is a whole different thing. So, but then I'll do, again, in advance, like you guys say, you go out, you get the beef jerky, you get the Slim Jims, Planters peanuts, whatever, that protein stuff, fruit bites, any of that kind of stuff, so that, immediately after the fact, because for some reason, everybody's going to be hungry.
Yep.
They
definitely will.
Yeah.
It's amazing how much hungrier you get when there's a storm coming.
Yeah.
Okay, who wants to confess that you've bought your hurricane snacks well in advance and then they were all gone by the time the storm came?
Well, luckily, I have my regular snacks, so,
You've got them separated?
there's a separate thing. I have
right.
not gone out and shopped for the hurricane snacks yet, but that's coming.
Jay, what's your go-to hurricane snack? It's double stuffed Oreos, right?
That's mine.
That's Andrew's.
That's the
okay.
Sullivan family.
All right.
Yeah, that's the cookies like that, but I think I like combos and salty.
He's more of a salty
stuff.
guy.
Yeah.
Jay's salty, no way.
Yeah, I know,
No
right?
way. All right, I'm going to just confess that I can't tell you the last time I've been in a hurricane at my own house. I'm usually in an EOC somewhere. However, there's got to be Cuban coffee, really strong. And then there's got to be Pop-Tarts, which I don't eat any other time in my life, but I require Pop-Tarts during an EOC.
Isn't that funny?
Hurricane activation, yeah.
Now, we're using acronyms. We have people on that might not understand what
is an EOC, Miriam? So when hurricanes are coming, we activate what we call the Emergency Operations Center, where we bring together all the people that are managing the city's response to that. So you've got public safety, you've got operations people, you've got logistics, you've got all the things that are going to come together before, during, and after the storm to help us prepare for, ride out, and respond to after. So all of those people include our communications team, so we are getting messaging pushed out. We work with the team that answers our phones, our citizens information line that opens up during that time. So you've got probably 15, 20 people in the city emergency operations center 24 hours a day throughout the event. And we make sure that it's supplied in enough snacks to get us through. And The junk food, I don't know. It seems like it's a necessary part of fueling all of that operation.
We need calories.
We need
right?
calories.
Carbohydrates.
Yeah, sure. I tell myself it doesn't count because we're during a hurricane, but
so let me paint the picture of the EOC for our listeners. Okay, picture this square concrete bunker-like place.
yes.
I'm not going to say where it is, but it's in city limits. And yeah, it's not like super spacious. There's like, what, is there 2 bathrooms now? I think there was 1 bathroom.
There's 2 now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. And it's like every department has a little desk there, and there's like it's like a emergency. Well, it's an emergency operator. It's that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, it's no frills for sure.
Yeah, no frills.
And
I would describe it as functional.
It's very chummy in there.
Yeah.
yes, and if you weren't buddies before, you are at the end, or maybe if you were before, you're not by the end. You've spent all these hours with people, but yeah. So
these are city staff.
Yes,
They're away from their homes and their families for sometimes days.
Taking care of things.
Yep. Do they want to be there? I don't know. I enjoy being there to serve the community. I think that that's a great honor to be able to provide the service that I do. But, shout out to everybody that makes that commitment to do that for the city of St. Cloud. I think it's amazing.
and to that point, Andrew and I spent a lot of time even internal messaging with our own employees when storms are coming, because our teams, so many of our employees are involved in storm response before, during, and after. So we have to get our employees to do their prep and planning for their own personal homes and families ahead of time, because once we're activating an emergency operations center, for example, everybody from public works, police, law, and firefighters, there's a big crew that's involved with all of this. So our team has to be personally ready even more in advance than our general community.
Now, probably the topic that everybody knows that they're going to hear about. We're going to talk about sandbags.
Dun, dun, dun.
Mariama, why do people need to use sandbags?
You need to use sandbags if there is danger of rising water entering your home.
Yep.
So if you're in a flood-prone area, I see in every storm, and Andrew, I think a lot of it is exactly to your point that we talked about earlier. People feel like they want to do something, so they feel like that they're ready, and they feel like there needs to be some action for them to take. If you live high and dry, and you're not at the bottom of a bowl somewhere, you don't necessarily need sandbags.
Yep.
But we see this, and again, I think part of it is we get sucked into this vortex of the 24-hour news cycle where all we're doing is just glued to the TV.
Yep.
And we just start thinking, the sky is falling and the world is ending and I have to do something. So I'm going to go get 25 sandbags and I bring them home and I put them in front of my garage. And my garage, there's not going to be water anywhere near it, right? So Andrew, talk a little bit, and then there's the whole thing about stacking them properly to where they're actually efficient. So talk a little bit about who doesn't need sandbags, and then just how to make them effective.
Yeah. So for everybody that hasn't been through this before, which I think is a considerable number of people, it will be offered the ability to fill your own sandbags. We're going to use the same process that we have for the past few years. It's going to be a central location for Osceola County. It's at Osceola Heritage Park. So you're going out of St. Cloud into 192 over towards sort of the between St. Cloud and Kissimmee. You'll go to a site where you'll be able to access a large pile of dirt, and you will be given empty bags. You will need to bring your own filling utensil, whether that's a shovel, a sand pail, whatever you have. It's up to you to bring it. So you can bring whatever device that you like to fill it, but it's on you when you go there. The ordeal is quite rigorous. It's going to be in the middle of summer. It's going to be inconvenient.
It'll test you.
It really will. And then, when you fill these, they're 20 pounds plus each.
Yeah, they're not light.
Right. So have a plan for if you need them, have a plan for how you're going to use them. You'll need to stack them to where they'll be actually making a water barrier. I've seen them just stood up individually in front of people's garages like they're going to ward off the water. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
So you need to create an actual barrier. You can use it in conjunction.
You can Google how to do this, right? Like there's videos out there, but to Andrew's point, they're lined up like little soldiers, and it's not doing anything.
Could I give my opinion about the sandbag experience?
Yeah.
To me, the sandbag experience is highly overrated because, like you say, you have to know exactly how to do it.
Yep.
But here's the part nobody talks about. When you get done with the sandbags, okay, they're still there. Okay, so if you've ever filled a sandbag like I have, maybe you have, those bags aren't really the best made bags, and they will deteriorate and break down. And I have had a sandbag in my driveway where I went to go move it. I pick it up and the bottom fell right out of it. And there was just a pile of sand there.
Yeah.
So a couple sandbag alternatives, okay? Home Depot, and I have done this. Home Depot, you can buy a big bag of mulch for like $2. And I've been to Home Depot when everybody was freaking out getting plywood. I was over there buying mulch, and it works as good as a sandbag, if not better. Then you can break the bag when you're done and, spread it around.
Make your yard pretty after the storm.
Yeah. Right. Second thing I saw, and again, these are not free things. You got to pay a little bit, but, if you want to, I saw this on Amazon. They're called water dams, and I think I'm going to check them out because honestly, I don't think they're cost prohibitive. It's like a big canvas thing that you fill up with water and you put it in front of your doors, your patio doors or whatever, and it sits there just like a sandbag. And then when you're done, you just let it out, because I'm telling you that getting rid of the sandbags after the fact, it sort of cancels out anything, in my opinion, because sometimes even ants move in and, I'm not even going to go down that road.
Now, you can reuse them. So if you go and fill them not seeing action, whether the storm just comes and goes or not, or if they haven't been wet, you can store them and you can reuse them the next week or 2 weeks down when we have the next storm threat.
Right.
If they're in flooded waters, you have to dispose of them. Yeah. So that's the one caveat. But you do have to dispose of them. You can't just put them in your kid's play box or whatever. It's not suitable for that once you've used it as a sandbag. So
for sure,
as Jay mentioned, you can go and get other materials from the big box stores and use those. They do already make a pre-made sandbag that's for that purpose that you can purchase ahead of time. Again, it's not free or supplied by your city or county, but you can have that right now and not wait until everybody else also wants them.
Or that's the worst thing. If you're in the sandbag line and you show up to get sandbags and like the bag, they're all out of bags at that point.
Right. So, or if the site is only open until 5 p.m., don't try to show up at 4:30 and expect to get in that 2-hour long line and be into the site. So it's a big ordeal.
And again, just to reiterate, not everyone needs sandbags during a storm like this, right? And this is where we talked about earlier in the show. Go to our website, check out your flood risk. If you're kind of new to the area, talk to your neighbors. Do we flood? Do we not flood? I mean, your neighbors are pretty good sources of information. But again, that tool we have on our website, you can plop your address in there. It'll give you everything you need to know about flood risk and so forth. And don't just panic react and do a thing that you really don't need to do. You're not helping. You're stressing yourself out needlessly. And then, if you've gone and gotten sandbags, you've got the issue afterward. Well, now what do I do with these things, right? And we get that question after every storm. Well, what do I do with them now?
So thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I know this has been a lot of information for you, especially if you've never been through a Florida hurricane season before. There's especially a lot of information that we're already sharing that's on our website right now. We'll have a link in the description. We want you to know that, when storms do come, you can depend on the city of St. Cloud to keep you informed. We'll have special banners and updates on our website. Our social media will be pumping out information. Of course, we'll be talking with our media partners to keep you all up to date. In the meantime, we urge you to please take precautions now. Take those steps, make that plan, and build your kit so that you can be ready for whatever Florida throws at us. Thank you all for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
See you next time.
That's it for this edition of Cloudcast. Don't forget to like, follow, rate, and review, and we'll see you next time on Cloudcast.